Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for another card video. Today's card is a pretty clean and simple card. I'm using the Cool Cat set by My Favorite Things again. I'm also using the Bearwear set by Ellen Hudson. It's made for those all-inside bears, but the cupcake will fit into the cat's hands. I have my Simon Says Stamp stitch circles and also my brick wall embossing folder by Stampin' Up. This could be made using portrait or landscape, so it's a 6x6 flexible embossing folder. Okay, so I'm going to stamp my images onto some Nina Solar White cardstock using some Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And now I'm going to start coloring my cat. I'm going to make him really super simple. I've just got two colors here. I have C4, which I started with, just along the edge. And then I'm taking the C1 and filling it in all the way to the middle. So here's my C4 again, just kind of highlighting the shadow areas right around the edge, underneath his neck, kind of underneath his arms there where you might see a shadow. And then I'm taking my C1 and just really going over that edge of the C4 to make sure that it blends out. Now he's going to have a cupcake in the middle, so I don't have to be too concerned about the shading in the middle. I did do a few rounds of the shading here with the C4 just to make sure I had enough shadow area. And I colored in his tail, and notice that I colored it all with the C4 first, but you can always go back in with the C1. It's a lighter color and it will remove some of the color. Now for his cheeks, I wanted a very, very light kind of tinge of pink. So I took the RV00, it's a very, very light color, just dotted it on both sides. And then I took a 0 and just went over the whole thing and covered it. And it's gonna remove a little bit of the color, so it's gonna be really, really faint, but that's exactly what I was looking for. The cupcake is going to be simple, RV14, just a dark pink around the edge, and then RV13 filling it in all the way to the right. Same thing with the bottom of the cupcake, an E43 along the left and the bottom, and then just filled in the rest with the E40. To add a little bit of extra shimmer, I used a Wink of Stella clear pen. I just went over the frosting of the cupcake. I really just use my clear Wink of Stella. I think it's versatile for pretty much everything. I'm going to make my kitty a little more interesting by adding some stripes. It's important to let the base coat dry first, because if you add the stripes while your base color is still wet, it's going to spread out into the color, whereas I don't have to worry about that. It'll stay stripy. And I'm going to be cutting him out, so I'm not too worried about going out over the edge, which is why I'm doing it this way. But you have to be careful, because in some areas you don't want to go over the edge because you'll actually hit the other part of the cat. So anyway, so I drew those stripes all the way around the edge of his body, and then I hand cut those images out. For my sentiment, I'm just going to ink up some Versamark ink onto my stamp and stamp it onto some black Stampin' Up! Cardstock. And then I'm going to heat emboss it with some white embossing powder. And this is just to add a little bit of contrast to my card, since I have a lot of gray. The gray I'm using is Smoky Slate. It's one of my favorite gray cardstocks by Stampin' Up! And I'm going to put that into my brick embossing folder, run it through my Big Shot, and then I'm going to cut my circle off the edge just a little bit, just for something different. These are by far my favorite circles because they cut stitching on the inside and the outside. All right, so I'm going to flip this over and use some Scotch foam tape. I just rip mine off when I apply it just because it's faster and easier. And I'm going to especially make sure that I have the foam tape around the circle. And now I have a card base, just A2 size. I'm going to line it up on the bottom and then flatten it out from the bottom to the top. That way I don't get any wrinkling. Next, I'm going to figure out where my sentiment needs to go. I want the words to be right underneath my cat. And once I get it positioned correctly, I'm going to make a little mark with my pencil so that I can put some adhesive on it and get it back in the same spot. I'm also going to mark the right-hand side to see how far I want it to come out. And I'm just going to hand cut that with a scissor, and I want a banner to be on the right. So I'm going to mark with my pencil a center point, a little bit, maybe 1/4 of an inch in. And then I'm going to take my scissor and I'm going to cut from one corner to that pencil mark and then the other corner to that pencil mark. These scissors were way too big for that, so I kind of messed it up a little bit, but you can't see it. Anyway, so now I'm going to adhere this. Now I don't want to adhere the right side with Scotch foam because I already have Scotch foam underneath my brick embossing panel. So I'm just going to put some dimensionals underneath my sentiment to pop that up. And then I'll take some Tombow Mono Multi Glue, which is just some liquid glue, and I'm going to put that on the right-hand side so that sticks flat to my brick layer. So I'll remove the backing of my dimensionals and I will center it inside that circle so that my sentiment will be right in the middle, and then press it down. And then I'll take my cat and I'm going to put some dimensionals on him, and I want him to be on top of the sentiment like he's sitting on it. I don't want there to be any gaps, so I'm going to put him right at the very edge, as far up as I can go without any of the white showing, and then I'll press down to adhere it with those dimensionals. And now I'm going to add the cupcake. I'm just going to take a little dot of the Tombow glue, put it right between his hands, and then I'll take my cupcake and put it right there. I don't want it to cover up his mouth, so I'm just going to kind of place it just below there so you could still see his face. And then finally I'll trim off that excess part of the sentiment on the left hand side, and that will be the completion of the card. So a little bit of contrast with the black and white and the gray and the little pop of the pink on the cupcake. So I matched the brick to the gray of the cat. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.